Good morning. So we've discussed with regards to Kiddush, the mitzvah of Kaddesh, how much to drink, and also the reclining aspect of the mitzvah of Kiddush. Now, a few further points with regards to this. So any mitzvah where a person needs to eat something, there is a certain time frame which he needs to eat it. And this is known as the time of Kadeh Achilat Peras, which is, without going into all the details, approximately 5 to 7 minutes. So, for example, we'll learn when it comes to the eating of the matzah, the required amount of eating matzah, the kazait, has to be eaten in this time frame of 5 to 7 minutes. Now, the question which the Rishonim discuss is, does this also apply to liquids as well? The Rambam held that because liquids are different to solids, and the norm is that you drink them quicker, when it comes to liquids, the time is far less than this time, and a person needs to drink in the regular way of drinking, not sipping, but to drink with a few gulps and to drink the required amount which needs to be drunk. Whereas the Ra'avad held that the time required for any mitzvah which you need to drink something is the same as with regards to eating, same time frame of 5 minutes. And so when it comes to the 4 cups, when it comes to Kaddesh, so a person needs to drink, we explained that a person should be drinking in the first instance a revi'it, which is about 86 milliliters, or at the very least 44 milliliters, melo lugma v'chikful. The time frame to do this needs to be, in the first instance, with a few gulps. So a person shouldn't sip. You see sometimes people sip the cups because they want to enjoy it and drink it slowly. That's lechatchila, not the correct practice. In the first instance, a person should be drinking 2, 3, 4 gulps, drinking each of the 4 cups of wine. B'diavad, if a person didn't do so, then he has what to rely on the Ravad, as long as he drinks it within the time frame of 5 minutes, and that would be sufficient. Preferably, the wine should be red wine, not white wine. The reason being is that red wine normally is better, and it's more of a symbol of aristocracy, and also because to remember the blood in which our ancestors, the blood spilt. The Midrash says that Paro bathed in the blood of the children. But if the white wine is preferable, it's more enjoyable, it's a better wine, then it's permissible to even have white wine. Now, a question which comes up often during the Seder is a person allowed to eat and drink during the Haggadah? There's a long time to go from Kiddush until the matzah, until a person gets to the meal. And people can get frustrated, hungry, and they want to eat. So obviously before Kiddush, a person isn't allowed to eat on Shabbat or on Chag. But once a person has done Kiddush, is a person then allowed to eat? So once a person begins Magid, the Biur Halacha quotes the Ramban and other Rishonim that a person should not interrupt with eating or drinking. So once a person begins Haggadah, the Manishtana, etc., then a person really, unless extremely hungry and not able to concentrate, should not be eating or drinking until they get to the matzah. After Kiddush, until the Haggadah, strictly speaking, a person is allowed to eat. However, there are 2 considerations to bear in mind. Firstly, is that even before Pesach, Shulchan Aruch rules that a person shouldn't eat too much, so he'll be able to eat the matzah lete'avon. He'll be able to enjoy the matzah and have an appetite for it. So a person, obviously, if he needs to eat or drink after Kiddush, before Magid, then they should have something small so that they still have a large appetite for the matzah. Secondly, is that one enters a debate whether one should recite Borei Nefashot. When we get to Karpas, we will explain that when a person has the Karpas, the celery, or whatever it is, then they are meant to have less than a kazait. They don't have to recite the Borei Nefashot, the after blessing, because the bracha of Borei Pri Ha'adama is meant to also last for the eating of the maror later on in the meal. And this is why you have less than a kazait, so you don't have to say borei nefashot, because if you say borei nefashot, you close the blessing. And then you enter a discussion whether you have to say borei peri ha'adama again for the maror later on. And so if a person eats a sufficient amount of food, needs to say borei nefashot, then he will, then he'll have to say borei nefashot, and then he'll enter a debate whether he has to say borei peri ha'adama on the maror later on in the seudah. And this is why we say preferably a person shouldn't eat or drink until the matzah. But if a person does need to before Haggadah, one may, and they should say borei nefashot after what they eat, and they don't say borei peri ha'adama again on the maror. So to summarize, firstly we said that a person should be drinking enough. Should be drinking the wine in a few gulps and not sipping it. Secondly, the preference of red wine. And finally, with regards to eating and drinking during the night until Motzi Matzah, from the Haggadah, a person should refrain from doing so. From after Kiddush until then, if a person needs to, then they may, but then they will have to recite borei nefashot, and they still wouldn't say borei peri ha'adama later on the maror. Obviously, if a person can, it's better not to eat and drink, or at least to eat and drink less than a kazait. They won't have to recite the borei nefashot.